All right, International Fight Week 2022 is upon us, and we are going all hands on deck today. It is the UFC 276 betting preview presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Jon Anik, and I am joined by some luminaries today, folks. UFC featherweight contender Cub Swanson. Some might call him Killer Cub Swanson. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, arguably the greatest striker in UFC history, is with us. And, of course, the sports betting Hall of Famer and the director of the DraftKings Sportsbook, Johnny Avello. Good to see you, man. Killer Cub back in Vegas. Good to have you here. How you doing?
I'm excited to be here. You know, usually I have fights around this time, and I don't get to come. But it's been a few years, but I'm here. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Wonderboy, great to see you with a hot mic, my friend.
Always, my friend. You'd be here for one of the greatest shows of the year. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And the esteemed Johnny Avello. You know, I like when we can do this in person as opposed to the head-to-head, so it's good to see you as well,
I
my
know
friend.
you do, John, and I'm back for 44 years here in town, so I
All right.
haven't left in a long time.
All right, well, let us get into the main event for the UFC's middleweight championship to be contested live at T-Mobile Arena on Saturday night. Israel Adesanya, another defense of his undisputed middleweight title, taking on the challenger, Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier. Opened minus 365. Adesanya, the betting favorite. Cannonier came back at plus 300. The line has moved. Minus 435 on Adesanya right now late in the week, and Jared Cannonier is plus 350. So, Cub, let's get into the matchup a little bit. Obviously, a compelling matchup. Adesanya sort of called for this challenger as the dark horse of the division. Your thoughts on what we might see in this matchup Saturday night?
Well, I think it's going to be a great fight. Obviously, you know, Adesanya is such he's a very hard puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
And I think Cannonier has just looked better and better throughout his career. I think many people saw this fight coming, and we're glad it's here. But I think with Adesanya's, you know, style, what he puts together, just, you know, he has too many tools. I think Cannonier's going to look to land some big strikes early, kind of demand respect, and I think that could be his downfall. I feel like he may fall into some traps, and yeah, I really see Adesanya coming out as the winner on this one.
Stephen, when we talk about the best strikers in UFC history, I'm not just blowing smoke, right? People talk about you, they talk about Israel Adesanya. So as a fellow striker and kickboxer, what are your thoughts on everything that Izzy brings to the table?
Oh, man, you know, Izzy Adesanya, he's so good at putting his opponents in a box. And what I mean by that is his method of covering the gap and managing the distance is so good. And on top of that, he's got the reach to make it even more dangerous, right? You got these wrestlers that come in that think they can out-wrestle him, but the next thing you know, he's sliding back, he's framing out, and he's striking you off of those strikes. So it's like, okay, I can't take this guy down, so I got to stand here and strike with this guy. But he's so good at sliding out of the way and, like I said, managing that distance. His opponent starts to reach farther, and then they don't land, so they start to reach a little bit farther, and next thing you know, they're out of position, and that's when he takes advantage of you. So, you know, you start doing things you normally wouldn't do in a fight. Izzy Adesanya is so good pulling that out. So, yeah, man, I think Izzy Adesanya is definitely one of the best strikers out there for sure.
All right, Johnny Avello, you set these lines. What do you have for us as far as the proposition front and the totals and any of the handle and bets that have come in on the main event thus far?
Yeah, you know, setting these lines, you know, why is that? You mentioned that line move. Why did it move? Adesanya, great striker, younger, taller, longer reach, all of those things. I can speak for that, but the reason why the line moved is because the money's been pouring in all day on that one side. For the rounds prop, we have 4.5, open minus 135. It's down to minus 120. And one prop that's taken action, John, that our players love that value. They look for that big payoff.
Right.
Method of victory, is he to win by KO, submission, or DQ? Bettors are taking the plus 150 in that one.
Interesting.
They love the pluses.
All right, we will see where that closes. On the Cannonier side, Cub, a lot of people have suggested that not only is this the strongest physically fighter that Israel Adesanya will have ever faced, but some have suggested he's actually the fastest. So if you're handicapping this fight from a Jared Cannonier perspective, how does he go about winning?
Well, I would take it like you would fight Floyd Mayweather, which not a lot of people could do. But I would attack his body right away. I'd try to look to beat up his leg. I'd try to make it a dogfight early. I think if you attack his head and he's making you miss, then you're just kind of falling deeper and deeper into his trap. So I think aiming towards his body, taking the easy shots, picking away at him, and then eventually going in for the kill. I think that's the way to do it.
WB, I guess Cannonier's got to find a way to close the distance. Easier said than done, I would think.
Oh, definitely easier said than done. You know, you see a lot of fighters in the past kind of go about especially with good strikers such as Izzy Adesanya. I think GSP really made it popular, but getting on the inside, right? Getting in the clinch position, trying to tire him out, getting him up against the fence, but it's closing that gap is what's so dangerous. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum actually had some success there, but I feel like if Cannonier can do that, he may get the W.
It sounds to me, though, like you guys don't necessarily see a ton of value on Jared Cannonier plus 350. I mean, forced to bet the fight, do you see any value on the Cannonier side?
Well, I mean, he's got power in his hands, and I mean, this is a guy that was fighting at heavyweight.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's hard not to say he doesn't have a great chance of winning. You know that Adesanya is going to show up. You know, he loves to show off. He loves the spotlight, and that's usually when he shines the brightest. But Cannonier has that power, and you can't count him out.
You betting this fight? You're probably laying off this fight. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, like I said, Cannonier has that puncher's chance, and I've been on the receiving end of one of those, dominating a fight. Next thing you know, I'm waking up in the back. So,
right.
He's got that puncher shot for sure.
All right, let us get into the co-main event. A lot of people feel like this should be the headliner, but I digress. It is Alexander Volkanovski trying to produce a 22nd consecutive mixed martial arts win. It's absolutely nuts. He is the minus 180 favorite, or was at open, I should say, against Max Holloway, who was coming back at plus 155. Right now, Johnny, on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 195 for Volkanovski and plus 165 for Max Holloway. They have fought twice before. Second fight was certainly closely contested, perhaps more so than the first. Your thoughts with this trilogy now upon us here in a few short hours?
Man, I think it's going to be just adding on to the two before. I think it's going to be razor close. But I think that, I think Volkanovski's the more calculated fighter. I think he has a little bit more discipline. I think Max Holloway, he's kind of a rhythm fighter. He needs that rhythm. And I think Volkanovski does a lot of fakes and feints, and he kind of puts a pause button on that flow. And I think that's going to disrupt, and I think that most likely will be enough to give him the nod.
Steven, both fighters have improved, perhaps exponentially, since that second fight. What are your thoughts as to what we might see Saturday?
100%. I mean, the first fight, well, obviously, went for Volkanovski. The second fight, some may say it was controversial, but I think third time's the charm, man. I mean, Max Holloway, he's got the schools, the tools to go out there and pick him apart on the outside. But like you said, Volkanovski's so good at feigning his partner up and getting to react to things and then capitalize on top of that. He's such a calculative fighter, man. So, it's going to be a good one, man. I don't know.
Johnny, historically, when you look back at the betting action on the previous two matchups, I'd imagine Max Holloway was favored for the first meeting as the incumbent, as the champion. What can you tell us about the previous handle and where we're at right now?
This fight was a little tricky to make. We've seen these guys go 10 rounds now.
Right.
The first fight was back in December 19. We opened Holloway $1.90. And the underdog, Volkanovski, was bet pretty strong in that one. The second fight, July 2020, we opened Volkanovski, the favorite, at minus 185. They took Holloway. We won that one.
Right.
We got that one. Yeah. So, the odds are moving now pretty rapidly today, 180 to 195. I would think that there'll be dog money show up. The rounds prop, though, is just all one-sided here. 4.5 rounds. We opened minus 210. We're at minus 255. That's a big move early in a week. One prop that's really popular and taking a lot of action is Holloway to win by split or majority decision. That's plus 1,100, which is 11 to 1. $1 wins you 11.
I mean, I'm contractually prevented from betting on all of this noise, but that's an intriguing number there at 11 to 1. All right, before we move along to our same game parlay, just want to quickly ask you guys in terms of maybe tuning out some of the noise as a handicapper or somebody who's forecasting about a fight. In the build-up to this fight, we have seen Max Holloway seemingly remake himself as far as the strength and conditioning. It seems like his coaches are talking about that as a particular area of focus, be ready for a war of attrition. I guess I'm just asking you guys as the fighters, how much do you lean into that when you see that type of information come out in advance of a big fight like this? Like, do you think Max has really made wholesale changes, or is that maybe a little bit of a front?
I mean, I believe it because, every fight you kind of got to dive back in and reevaluate, especially with a loss. So you're going to come back as better, or else why come back at all? So I believe that. If he's saying that, I believe it. But, you know, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to make a difference. I think that's one of the hardest things that makes betting on MMA hard is they don't know how good the training camp went. And people don't realize, like, we have really good camps and we have not so good camps sometimes, and that's just part of it. Sometimes you get injured or you don't have the right training partners. So, yeah, if he's saying he's ready, I definitely believe it, but I believe they're both going to be ready, so we'll see.
You like that approach out of Max Holloway?
100%, 100%. I mean, you know, there are some fighters out there, you've seen him fight once, you've seen him fight 100 times. When you look at Max Holloway, the guy's improving, you know, after every fight, wins or losses. He's a very intelligent fighter, and he just gets better.
All right, so our DraftKings producers today have charged us with coming up with a same-game parlay. So essentially what we're going to do now, myself, Cub Swanson, and Stephen Thompson, the Hall of Fame operator, has to lay this one out. But essentially, for this fight between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, we each are going to come up with something. They'll throw them together, and we'll give you the price on that. So, Cub, we'll start with you. You were given a chance to bet on anything in this Holloway-Volkanovski fight, and you went kind of chalky, over 4.5 rounds, minus 255. What gives?
Yeah, because I don't want to lose money, you know. In this fight scares me. They're both guys that are still in their prime. They're right there. We've already seen them do it twice, and I don't think we're going to see anything much different. It's going to be a great fight, but I think it's going to be razor thin, and I'm going to say plus 4.5 rounds.
All right, Stephen Thompson, what do you have for us?
Man, both guys are fairly even, so I think Holloway, you know, he's got the IQ to get it done.
All right, so Max Holloway right now plus 165 on DraftKings Sportsbook. And then I'm going to go with Alex Volkanovski to have the most takedowns at minus 155. So I think he will have more takedowns than Max Holloway will in the fight. All pays out at plus 400, and those same-game parlays are now live at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, before we get on out of here, very special thing happening this week in Las Vegas, our 2022 UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And Killer Cub Swanson's going in, ladies and gentlemen.
Is that your fight tomorrow?
That is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And you'll be there. And I know you're not nearly as nervous as I am for the festivities, but your fight with Doo Ho Choi from 2016 to be inducted, forever immortalized in the UFC Hall of Fame. And this is, I know, a really special thing for you and your family. So what are your thoughts here on the eve of your induction?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous. You know, when I was growing up as a kid, there was two things that I wanted in life. One was to never do public speaking, and two was like, I need a steady income because that just seems safe. And neither of those things have come true. So, yeah, public speaking is not my favorite thing to do, and I got to give a speech, and I know I'm gonna get emotional, and you know, it doesn't make me less of a man to get emotional up there, but yeah, I'm excited that it's happening. I feel like it's well deserved. I've given almost 2 decades of my life to this, and it's the little pat on the back I needed to keep going.
And maybe one day your fight with T. Wood is getting in there, man, you know? And Johnny, I guess your homework is just to go to UFC Fight Pass or somewhere and watch Cub Swanson versus Doo Ho Choi.
My homework is to get in the camp and find out when I'm not training so well.
That's right. All right, that is going to do it for our UFC 276 betting preview presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you are looking for a big payday, you might want to check out the Sportsbook, that newest UFC feature, Same Game Parlays. You can even ride with us if you're brave enough. So new DraftKings customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code HOF in honor of our guy Cub Swanson going into the Hall. Throw down $5 on UFC 276 and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That is code HOF this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. All right, it all goes down at UFC 276 from T-Mobile Arena live this Saturday night. With that, for Cub Swanson, Stephen Thompson, and Johnny Avello, Jon Anik saying so long from Las Vegas. We will see you next month in advance of the next pay-per-view.